Today we're checking out how difficult it is to get a good tone out of the Fractal Audio FM9. Recently I was talking with a friend of mine who is also a guitar player, and he is not that into dialing in tones and modeling units. Although he likes my tones, he is more of an analog gear kind of guy. And I tried to convince him that it is not always that difficult to get good results with the modeling units which are currently on the market. In the past it could be quite time consuming and difficult, you had to tweak them a lot, but nowadays they sound pretty nice, out of the box, pretty usable. And we are especially talking about the Fractal Audio products because these are known for having the most flexibility and tweakability, but therefore maybe people tend to think it's difficult to use these units. And that is not the case in my opinion. So today I would like to show you a couple of amp models where it's quite easy to get a good tone with. Here's the editor. I'm playing my FM9, but it's more or less the same editor like the AxeFx III has, which I also own. And so first of all, here's the effects chain which I'm using, and this is one preset that I think comes with my preset pack. If you would like to get my preset packs, as always, please contact me on Facebook or Instagram. The links are in the description below. And I offer these preset packs for all the modeling units you know, except for the Helix. And of course, please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. It helps me a lot. So this is the effects chain. It's quite long, as you can see. Contains everything which I need, and you have different scenes. So let's go to the first scene, which is my rhythm scene. And let's turn off the fancy enhancer block here. So it's quite easy. You can double click these to engage the effects, or of course hit the bypass. Yeah, and I'm using an IR which I created. Can also turn off the multiband compression, although it doesn't do a lot here. So it's just amp and a cap. Of course, this is a cap which I like, but once you found your favorite IR, you can import it, or also, of course, choose one of the 1000 IRs that come with the unit here. So this is the tone which I dialed in. Totally dry. Saturated high gain tone, no low cut or high cut here applied. If I switch to another amp model, then it will go to the default settings of the amp model. So let's say we will switch to an Angle Savage. Sounds like this. Same AR, sounds already nice. Even in stock settings, I would dial back the treble a little bit. And if this doesn't the job for you, you can go to the next page, which has a couple of more knobs, especially here the high treble, which is very usable. Very useful. Because the highs can be a problem. But if you cannot get the result you want with the presence and the treble, you have also the high treble. This is maybe around, I don't know, 4K or something. And I won't go and deep dive into the tweaking ability of the unit, because I did that in another video. Of course, you could tweak the input stage, you could boost the amp, whatever you need. But let's keep it here, let's keep it simple, and without engaging input or output EQs. You can engage the boost from this section here. One little trick which you can also use even if you don't want to tweak that unit very far, but you could choose the boost type that is used here. So it's a full tone OD. The 808 is also available here, and also mid boost, which is very usable, very useful here. So you could try this out. Of course, the unit comes, as you can see here, with drive block, and then you could choose a lot more of the well, the pedals, you know, but just with the amp, even at stock settings, you get a pretty decent tone. Let's choose another amp model. What is popular? Maybe the JCM800, of course. So let's choose maybe this one, which is, as far as I know, a modified Marshall. This sounds quite different, of course, not as much gain. So let's say if we want to use this with my IR, I think it needs some bass, so let's add some depth, and let's dial back some treble. And instantly, sounds more pleasant to my ears. But of course, if you want to get high gain out of a JCM800, I think you should boost it. There you go. So already we have a nice JCM800 tone without that much tweaking. Of course, you could check out the other models here, for example, the modded one, which is a little bit tighter. And that is what I do. Usually I'm checking out the models that come with the unit, and as you can see here, it comes with quite a lot, JCM800 models, and then I choose the one which sounds best initially at the stock settings and then start tweaking from there. But of course it depends on which kind of tone you would like to have, which unit to choose, and of course your personal preference. So let's choose another one. Of course, I know the units, so I kind of know which amps are quite easy to dial in from my experience. So there was also the Diesel VH4. Let's say super overdrive here. Nothing wrong with that, at least. Not that I would screw this amp model. I think I could use it and get my favorite tone. course, I would tweak it a little bit more, I think, but it's not necessary to use the output EQ here with that tone, I think. Instead, usually what I do is I'm using the input EQ to shape the guitar signal a little bit. But of course, you could play around with the power amp tubes and also here with the speaker impedance curve. But even if you don't want to do this, it sounds nice. What else do we have? Well, the Friedmans are also always a good choice if you want to get a great high gain tone. Usually I tend to use the ones, not the ones with the most gain. Instead, I would like to use a boost. Because in most cases, using only the amp, it's not the tightest result. And keep in mind, I'm using the same IR for all these tones, so IR is very important for the result. Another one which was also very easy to use was, I think, the 6505. Block the lead or the crunch. As I said, I'd like to use it with the boost. .6505 is an amp where usually I dial out a little bit of the harshness. Very saturated. I think I would not use the super OD here with that much level. If you want to know more about the tweaking, another advice is to use the low cut frequency here in the preamp section to raise it if your amp is too floppy. So that could be useful, for example, with a recto. So let's use this one. Sounds like a recto. But with lots of bass frequencies, of course. We boosted like everybody, an 808, for example. And here, this trick could help if you set it higher. You can go pretty high here. The reason why you can go so high with the low cut is because it's only affecting the signal that comes from the preamp. The bass is added again in the power amp stage. So also very easy to get a recto tone. Of course, you could tweak it to sound like a Marshall, but yeah. My goal in this video is to show you how easy it is and how good these amps sound just at stock settings. Which other one could be interesting? Well, of course, these more traditional ones are also here. I like the 50 watt Plexi. So let's see, where was it? Sometimes they're changing their names, so it was not here. The Brit section. OD Plexi here. Well, there's a 50 watt. Let's go with that. Sounds already usable for AC/DC tones. Instantly you have the kind of Ingvi tone for leads. Of course you could boost it with a pedal which has a little bit more gain, like this one, Super OD. And also the effects are very easy to use. For example, if you use the enhancer block for this widener effect, you can choose from different types here. If you use the sterilizer, you have the wide and depth, but if you use it in the classic mode, you can basically set it like maybe 75%. And it does what it's supposed to do. So really not much tweaking needed. Same with the reverb block. So let's choose maybe, do we have an arena kind of hall here? No, we have a music hall. Let's say, I like to have a really long reverb. I'm playing at home, but a dark sounding reverb. Well, let's use the huge room, for example. And the only thing which I would do with the reverb, I would set the high cut. So you found that here in the EQ section, which the block has. Fortunately, set it around maybe 2K. And of course, the mix is important. So this is basically what I need to adjust. So yeah, this unit is not difficult to dial in. The most difficult thing with that unit is you have a shitload of amps and effects here, so you have to find the ones which fit your taste. But once you know which amps you like, then it's pretty easy. And honestly, I can understand with most amps the stock settings and the sounds and what they're supposed to, or how they're supposed to be used. So I think they did their homework, and of course they have a lot of experience, the Fractal people. So they're coming a long way with the Fractal audio. AxeFx1, it was kind of difficult to tweak to get good results. But here, as I said, it's really easy. And yeah, keep in mind to choose the right IR. If you have one that you like, I'd recommend to stick with it. Just apply maybe a high or a low cut. And other than that, well, you can start with the ideal, however, this is spelled a section here to shape the tone. And then, of course, you have the input-output EQ if you want to tweak it more. Yeah, very flexible unit. I think also the editor is very intuitive. Not the one built in the unit, but this one here, the PC editor. and hopefully in the future their units will be controllable from maybe your phone or a tablet. That would be really helpful. So I hope you like it, and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. See ya.